Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to cover one of the important topic in React, that is Redux in React. Guys, Redux is, I can say, the core topic to understand if we are going to deal with the complex applications because we know how we actually needs to manage our data at single place and how we can play with that data throughout the components. So welcome back. Today is video number 5067 and I'm excited because I'm online with my videos as well as because a lot of my users have demanded me to online with the videos. So I'm excited and I have come around 2 to 3 weeks because I was busy with some very important things that was very personal. So I need to deal with that. But now I've got some time and I'm back with my React experience. So let's get started, guys. So before start working on this, if you have not subscribed to my channel, you can subscribe to my channel. Channel name is Aamir Pervez, and you can see these all are there 67 almost videos which are public, and you can see and you can learn the React JS in complete detail. And if you miss anything, and while I was working on the source code, you can download the source code from this GitHub slash Aamir Pervez slash React JS complete course. So, right, guys, I am going to share this link in the description as well as. So let's get started. So today is a very important topic, React Redux complete tutorial. I'm going to explain with some real-time example as well as, but first we need to understand what actually happens, how usually we pass data in the React.js. Guys, you can see here, this is actually our app.js component, and we have multiple components, component one, two, three, four, and so on. So in React, what we do, we can pass data from parent to child component, which makes it unidirectional, right, guys? And you can see here, if I was trying to pass data from component 4 to component 1 and 5, we can't do that, right? In simple React.js, because from component 1 to component 2, we pass data through the props, and from 2 to, if we need to pass data to 3, we can pass through the prop. This is actually the drilling. We have already covered this example in our previous lectures. You can see those lectures to understand what is prop drilling, right, guys? Okay, so we manage this thing with our props. So now, if and later on we learned about the context API, use context, it actually solves our problem. What it actually did, uh, it actually solved our problem in certain way that you can see without context we need to pass the data through the props from app.js to app employee, and if we need to pass any data to employee information, we can pass the prop to this component. But what app.js did, it actually we can actually create the provider on our applications, and this provider actually help us. We What we do, we actually wrap our app.js under the provider, right, guys? So provider have the capability, whatever value we will pass to this provider, we can pass these values to throughout our components in our complete application, right? So let's assume that employee info needs to pass some data to app.js, or maybe we can say that app.js need to pass directly data to the employee info component, right, guys? So in app, if we need to send data to employee info, what we will do, we can easily send data to these component, because these component actually play the role of the consumers. They can get the data. So using the context API and use context, we have already covered this topic in detail in our previous video. You can watch this video. I'm going to share the link in the description as well as. So what it will do, it will actually help us to share the data between the components from one component to, not to the child, but to any component in the application using the use context, which is good. But today we are going one of the we are going to cover one of the important topic in React.js, that is what is Redux and Redux, and we'll talk all about the Redux library, and why we are going to use the Redux. It is actually state management library. This is very important. It actually manages the state not only on the component level but on completely on the application level, right, guys? And Redux is inspired by the Flex. Yeah, that is true, because in the last we can say, I can say that in 2014, Facebook actually facing these problems, so they created the Flex. So actually, Redux is inspired by the Flex, how they actually how the architecture of the Flex Redux also is almost similar like that, but there are few advanced things in the Redux which actually help us to get learn more advanced features, right, guys? And the specialty of Redux is that it actually centralizes the application state, right? Uh, if I can say that if we have the one, two, or multiple states here, you can see in this picture, we have multiple components, right? And if this component needs to get any data, it will get the data from this centralized database. If this component needs to get any data, it actually get data from this centralized database. But later, without Redux, what we will do, we will pass data through props or use context. And so we will move forward. Single source truth. So what does this mean actually? This means that the state of your whole application is stored in an object, right? Object tree with a single store. Typically a deeply nested object for a real application. So we can say that this is a real example. Like we have only one single way of updating the data, and that is only we have only one store in the application. But in the Flex we can have a multiple stores, right? So this actually differentiate the Flex and the Redux. And also, if we move forward, make data flow transparent and predictable. Yeah, that's true. We can actually the data flow is very transparent. It's not anything hidden, or we will not get any surprise data for somewhere, and it is predictable because whatever we will call to the API, or we will dispatch to the our actions and reducers, we will get the expected result. We will not get the unpredictable results. Whatever we have written in the reducer, it will return back the new updated states, right? And components don't maintain their own state. I already shared this thing that we do not maintain the states in the component level. Now we are actually handling the states to the application level, right? Synchronizing a data processing application, yeah, that's also happened because if we update the data there in a single point, we need to update the data. This will immediately solve the problem. What will happen actually? Suppose we have a website and I click on somewhere and I'm expecting that this field on the left side of the application will update. So it will automatically update because our whole application is relying on a single database. So whenever we are going to make update the state, it is going to reflect the same way at the same time. So this is how synchronizing the data across the application is working. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss about the core principle of Redux overview. So how Redux actually work? This is a flow of the Redux. So you can see here on the UI, if I need to make, let's suppose if I'm going to make any changes, I'm going to add a new book. On a form, I'm going to pass the detail of the books, and if I click on the submit or save, it will dispatch the action. An action will say what we need to do, and I'm going to say it in the action. I need to store the new book. So it will go and action will go to the reducer and it will perform the update the states there, and it will bring back after the reducer, it will go to the store and store will update the new record and it will return back the new states. And once it will return back the new states, we will get the new updated records, and in the list of books we will have a new record. So this is how the hierarchy, or I can say the life cycle of actually the Redis works. So I'm going to explain a little bit about all these things. First, I'm going to explain the store, which is I can say a important topic for Redux. The global state of an application store in an object tree with a single store, right? So you can see here in this diagram, whatever we store in throughout our application, we are storing in this single store database. I can say database or single store or storage point, right? If I need to fetch anything, child one, it will fetch this from there. If child two need to perform any action, they can fetch directly to store. So there is no any other point. We have a single store and we can directly access to our store. So how we can actually, this is programmatically representation, how we can actually create a store. It's very simple. We need to create a store like this. We need to import this libraries and then we can write these commands. And in the provider, we can pass this store because you all know that in the provider, when we have the app component, it is going to actually reflect all the components, a child component throughout our application, right? Okay, Redux actions. Actions are actually one of the core thing if we need to work on the Redux. First, what we will do, Redux is instead in Redux is read only, right? Whatever we write it, those all states are read only. We cannot directly modify them. So if anyone wants to change the state of the application, like I need to modify any customer record or I need to modify any record, uh, what we will do then, they will actually express their intention of doing or imitate, imitating or dispatching an action. Let's suppose I'm going to say it, I will dispatch an action. What I will do, I will call to action and say update this particular record. So action will pass the request to the reducers, and reducer will actually perform those requests and return back the new states. So look at the reducers. Reducers are, as the name suggests, take in two inputs. The previous state, let's suppose the previous state is I have a student record, and in the student record I need to actually update their class. So previous state will have class 6 for the student and they have passed the exams and now they are moving to the class 7. So we will get the previous state and the action, and in the action type we will define that what action you need to perform. So I'm going to say it, update the student or delete the student or whatever we are going to perform. So reducers will take two inputs, and reducer will actually update the instance of the state and it will return back the new updated state to us. So in this case, you can see here on the code, I'm going to add one book. So I will pass the object and I will say to action that you need to actually pass the type add book. So it is going to add the new book in the collection, right, guys? So there can be either be one reducer. I can say there can be one reducer or multiple reducer in our applications. So it's up to our requirements, right? And then the core principle's conclusion is that, in short, all these three principles completely govern how Redux works actually. I will talk about the store. We have only one single store, and it's stored and in an object tree. And if any component need to get or talk with the DB, they can directly access the store. And the actions, if we need to perform any action in our reduce or reducers, we can actually call that action and pass data to reducers. And reducers are actually pure functions. I can say that because whatever we will pass, they will actually perform those uh, actions on them, and they will return back the new states to us. So now, guys, let's do a practical example. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a real-time application for all of you so that we can understand the value of the Redux. Clear, honestly, I'm going to tell you one thing which is very clear needs to be very clear to you, that Redux is, if you're going to work on a complex applications and you have a huge amount of data to manage very easily, there is no any difficulty or there's no, you do not need to make complexity in the code. I will prefer you to use the Redux. Otherwise, if you have a simple applications, I will prefer you to use context, or you can use the props. So now this is actually our components, total books, available books, not available books, and top rated books. So here I'm going to add the books, and whenever I'm going to add the book, it is going to update these components and these components. I'm going to create one separate store, and we will see the power of the Redux now and how it is going to help us in developing the real-time application. So let's get started, guys, and stay calm because you are going to learn very interesting and very great topic of the React. So now I'm going to say I'm going to create a new application, and I'm going to create this application, Redux real-time example. So till then, we are covering this, we are creating this application. I need to recommend that don't forget to subscribe my channel, and if you need to download the source code, you can download the source code from here if you miss anything. I will update all the source code if I miss anything. So let's do it. Okay, guys, so now our project is created and project name is Redux project. Actually, I've renamed the project. So now you can see you are all are familiar with this project. And now I'm going to, first of all, we are going to achieve this target. And I'm going to create few components. So I will get start from this main one, how we can add the books. So let's get started. And I'm going to remove all these things from here. And I'm going to say it H1 Redux complete tutorial. Okay, great. And now I'm going to create a new folder here and I'm going to set components. And under this, I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to set manage books. Cool. And under this, I'm going to create a component and I'm going to name this component manage book. Okay, guys, cool. And I'm going to say RFCE it's a snippet for creating this code and I'm going to name it manage books. Cool, guys. And now I'm going to use this on the app.js page. I'm going to say it like this. And I need to import this. So all I'm going to do here, I'm going to import this because I'm going to achieve my target. Our target is actually we are going to uh, we are basically going to create manage books. I'm going to add the books and I'm going to show you how Redux actually behaves when we add any items. We can perform multiple tasks on that. So now if I'm going to restart my pay project, okay, cool. I'm going to start this project. So till now in the project, we do not have any support for the Redux. I'm going to show you how we can actually add the Redux in our application and how we can actually organize the files while working on the Redux. Okay, cool. So, and I also need to show you, this is actually the official website for the Redux .js.org. You can read this. I'm going to share this in the description as well as you can view this website to understand how we can actually create the Redux apps and what commands we need to write while creating the Redux application. And there's complete example and discuss about the Redux toolkit as well as. So. Let's get started and see our demo page. So, okay, it's loading. Okay, great. So this is a complete Redux tutorial, and now this is our manage book. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create the UI first. I'm going to cover the UI part. So let me just open this. Okay, and here I'm going to say in the components, I'm going to add like add books or so I'm going to say here add or update books, but whatever name suits you, add books.js, and I'm going to say RFC snippet for creating this component. So now what I'm going to do here on this page, I'm going to actually add a form for adding the books, and I'm going to what I'm going to do, I'm going to say here, I can create a table, and then I'm going to say here, I can on the table. I'm going to show these fields, how many fields we have, name, author name, status, and rating. Great. So I'm going to say here uh, tr. Okay, no, okay. So I've already created this work. So I'm going to add one more td. Okay, cool. And I'm going to close this tr. Great, guys. So this is book name. I'm going to copy this and tr separately and 2, 3, and 4. We have four main fields, and I'm going to say author name. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to say it book status. I can simply say it status. Okay, and then book status. Cool. And here I'm going to say it status and book rating. So I'm going to name it only rating. No need to write again and again. Okay, so great, guys. So this is a basic UI. Now I need to add some fields here, input fields here. So now what I'm going to do here. I'm going to add the input field, and for that I have also written some okay, right from for now I'm going to remove these two things, and I'm going to copy this name field and also paste it here. I'm going to name it author. Okay, cool. So these are two fields, and now for the status is available or not available. For that, I'm going to add one drop down here because it is going to make it easy to actually write it. So I'm going to say choose a status like this. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to add a drop down here. And for now, I'm going to say here that for now I'm going to remove this support field. So in the drop down where I have added this select, and the select I have all given two options, available or not available, right guys? So it's not very difficult thing, it's simple HTML things. I hope you understand with all these things, but if you found any difficulty you can write me in the comments. I am going to explain in quite detail for you, no problem. And for the ratings I have already created these. For excellent, you can I have passed this. For very good, I have passed value 4, and these are all the ratings. And for wastage of time, if book is below average, then we can pass this as well as. So great, guys. So now I'm going to pass some CSS to this, but before that, I need to add one more TR here, table row, and then in here I'm going to say it, I need to add button here for like I can say button, and I'm going to name this button save, and I'm going to copy this button and I'm going to say it cancel. Okay, cool. Good guys. And on the on click, I'm going to perform some actions. But before that, let's check it out how our UI looks now. It doesn't show because we have not called this add book component in our manage. So I'm going to show here. Okay, now I need to import this. Great. So cool guys. So now check this out and see if it shows the output. Okay, cool. It shows the output and it looks brilliant. So now I'm going to pass some CSS to this. So you all know the rule of CSS. I have already written some CSS. You can copy those CSS from our projects and um, understand that how I am actually working on, have actually implemented this. It's not very complicated. It's really simple. You can easily understand the CSS. I have added CSS for table and button. So I'm going to use the CSS. All I need to do is I'm going to use the CSS and I'm going to call it here. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to say import, and like this, I'm going to pass module dot add book dot css. Cool guys. So now if we go and check the output, great guys. So I applied the basic CS. I'm going to show you what I have did in the CSS. On the table level, I have passed some font family, border, and width, and on the TH, I have on the headings. Because after that, I'm going to use some headings as well as and buttons. I have passed. There is not complexity. It's very easy and simple. You can understand it quite easily. You can get the CSS classes from my GitHub projects. So you can see here it looks now very nice. So name and author, and you can choose the fields and also rating to rate to the book. So now I'm going to work on the save button, but before that, I'm going to create the basic components here. So now I'm going to achieve this part. I'm going to show total books, available books. So in this video, I'm going to cover only these two. Otherwise, videos will get too lengthy. So now I'm going to add one more folder here, and I'm going to name it common. The reason is that because in the common, I'm going to add a component which is going to be repeat again and again. And I think I'm going to add one component here and I'm going to name it stats panel. And and then I'm going to, okay, I'm going to pass the RFCE, great. And here I'm going to set H1 and I'm going to set total books. Right now I'm going to pass the hard-coded values, and here I'm going to pass the total number of books, but this is not going to be hard-coded. It is going to be changed and for later on. Okay, cool, because this component is going to be reusable again and again, so I'm going to actually copied this and pasted here. Okay, great. It's a typo mistake, don't worry. Okay, and now I'm going to import this shared component and I'm going to say it from common, and the common I'm going to, okay, cool. Now if I go and check the output, okay, so now you can see uh, this component one. So if I'm going to, now I'm going to copy this component. I do not want to write again and again. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to pass some CSS to this. So all I need to do is, okay, in the common, I'm going to say it module. You know why I'm using the module, because in the previous video I've already discussed about that water module. There are multiple ways of writing the CSS. So module dot CSS, right? So for this, I have already written this some CSS. So I'm going to pass this. I'm going to pass this div panel. I'm going to use this div name in the div panel name. I'm going to say this div, pass the div panel. So now if I go here and check the output, let me just check. Okay, we have not import the CSS class. So now I'm going to import the CSS class, and okay, I'm going to import this. I'm going to name this. Cool. Okay, see, it looks brilliant. It differentiate the component differently. So now I'm going to pass the flex because I need to pass this. Otherwise, it will not look good. And all I need to do here now, I need to actually uh, check this out. And I'm going to pass the online CSS. So they look in some order. So it looks good now, but this part is not looking much good. We need to actually work on this one. And I'm going to remove this from here. I'm going to remove from here and I'm going to show it here. I need to remove this one as well as, and I'm going to pass this. Okay, cool. And like this. It looks good to me. You are also familiar with this. This is fragmentation, fragment, React.fragment. You can watch my previous video to understand why I'm passing these tags. So now look at the output. It looks brilliant. Total books, and here I'm going to pass. Now I'm going to actually write the code for managing this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually, it's not complicated thing. I'm going to manage this thing through the props. So all I need to do, I'm going here. I'm going to say it props. Great. And here I'm going to pass it props heading because heading we can pass multiple headings. So I'm going to say it like this. And here I'm going to pass props.total. It looks okay. So now I need to work on this part, and we need to pass this heading and all this values from in the props. So now I'm going to set heading and total books. Total books. Great. And for total, I'm going to right now I'm going to pass some hard-coded values, but later on I'm going to update this. Great. I'm going to say available books for now. I'm going to say it like 5. Okay, great. So now check out the output. It looks good, right, guys? So this is brilliant. Till now, we have not used the Redux in our application, which was actually exciting because I'm creating a real-time application for all of you to understand the Redux. So you can, if you are all familiar with all this thing, you can bypass and move to the Redux part. So now, I'm going to work on the Redux part. So what you need to do, I'm going to stop the application, and for the Redux, you need to install the package Redux. And all you need to do, you can simply write this command. You can see here, npm install React Redux. So you need to install this. So I'm going to install this command, and it will actually support the Redux packages, and you can find this package in your package.json file. So there you can see the versions, which version currently I'm using. I'm creating this video on 15 Feb 2023. So you can look at what at when you are developing this application, what version actually you are using. So you can use that. Otherwise, if some of the source code doesn't work, you can copy this version from my project and use that. So now you can see here in our project we got the Redux, which is a version 4.2.1, and the React Redux is 8.0.5. Great, guys. So now we got the support for the Redux in our application, and now we are going to actually implement this real-time application, which we just discussed. We are going to create the actions, we are going to create the reducers, we are going to create the stores, and we are actually going to implement this real-time. So let's get started, guys. Okay, so I'm going to close this. So it looks okay. I'm going to close this one as well as and this file as well as. So now what I'm going to do here, I need to add a new folder here, and I'm going to name it actions, and one more folder, reducers. Great, guys. And we need to add one file here on the project, and I'm going to set store.js. This is basically going to be a global file for managing the whole data in our application, and we are going to create the store here in this application, and we are going to use throughout our application all those states. Okay, guys. So in the action, you all are familiar with this. What are actions and when we need to use the actions? So, guys, basically you need to understand that actions, as we discussed earlier, actions are plain JavaScript objects that must have a type attribute in and indicate the type of action performed. So let me do it practically and show you how we are actually going to create this and how we are actually going to manage all these things. So now just go to our project, and all you need to do is first I'm going to add the index file here. Okay, great. And now I'm going to add one more file. I'm going to name it action because it is going to actually help us in understanding with the name of the file that what this file is actually doing. This is action file, and this file is actually manage the books, right? I can say books, okay, no problem. So now, as I told you, it tells us what had happened. Types should be defined as a string constants in your application as given below. So it is recommended to keep your action object as light as possible. Guys, how we actually going to create the action? All we need to do is it's very simple. It's not complicated. It's the first time. It's first time you're creating, so that's why you're going to be a little bit complex. So const, I need to pass the action name of the action, what action this is going to add the book, and here I'm going to pass the parameters if you have any parameters, and here I'm going to say it type. I'm going to return this, and I'm going to say type. And the types can be passed with the strings, so I'm going to say it add. It's a capital letter recommended with underscores recommended, but it's up to you. And the second field is payload actually. In the payload, we pass the actually parameter values, and I'm going to say it uh, book object, or I'm going to say like this right now. Okay, it will receive the object. So this is how we are actually create the actions. And action, you need to make sure that you need to pass the type, right? And the type, it is when you pass the type, it will take the request to the reducer, and it will find out that this particular type to perform the actions. Whatever you write the code in this type, it is going to execute that, right, guys? And usually it is also recommended that use the light and less parameters in your application, or those which are necessary. Don't pass the unnecessary parameters in your actions. So here you need to export these actions. Okay, great. I'm going to create one more action. I'm going to say here remove book. You can have multiple actions. I'm going to pass book ID. Cool, guys. And I'm going to say it book ID. Okay, you can on the reducers in the actions.payload, we are going to have this separate field and this value. And here we are in the payload, we have passed the complete object. So it's up to you how we are going to manage this. Uh, so I'm going to say remove here. Cool. Okay, guys. So now I'm going to use pass this thing in the index file because sometimes we can have a multiple action. So I need to actually make the consistency throughout the application. So this is a preferable way of doing this. So now I'm going to say it. I'm going to copy these names. Okay, and now I'm going to copy this. If there's no mistakes, this looks good to me. Okay, great. Okay, cool, guys. So now we have created the actions, and what actions do I have already told you. Actions are a way of actually talking with the reducers to update our states and update the store. So this is the way of action. We actually dispatch any request to reducers or store by using the actions. Without actions, we cannot any dispatch any request to the store because actions tell us that what type of request you are passing and what parameters you are passing to fetch the data or to modify or whatever action you are going to perform. Right, guys? So we have created two actions here. I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to create the reducers. Reducer is also very important topic because reducers are pure functions in Redux. Pure functions are predictable. We know that our reducer function or type is going to perform this action. So we need to take care of our reducers action. And I'm going to say here, I'm going to add file reducer, and I'm going to say manage books. So this is my reducer. And here again, I'm going to pass the new file here index. And this is a very important file because in this file, I'm going to pass all the reducers we are going to use in our application because we can have one reducer and we can have a multiple reducer. And I'm going to create a root of the reducers. This root is actually going to be bind with the R store. So I'm going to show you how, but later on. So now what I'm going to do here, now I need to actually create the reducer. And in the reducer, you all know that we have covered this topic in a previous video. We need to pass some initial values. So I'm going to create some initial values, and I have already created this initial value, some initial values here. So here I have passed is loading. Right now I'm not going to use it. I've passed the books objects. So by default I'm going to pass any object to this so that you can understand that what this initial values are doing. So this is ID 1. I'm going to say 111 and book name, author, and all these things. Great, guys. So now I have passed some initial values, and I'm now you all remember that when we are working with the reducers, we need to pass two parameters. One is initial state and the second action. What action we are going to hit? Because in the reducer we can have multiple actions like add books, remove books, or update books, or we are going to perform multiple ways of action in the reducers. So now I'm going to set const and reducer name. I'm going to copy this reducer name, and here I'm going to say it is equal to, and now I'm going to pass these two parameters here. Okay, cool. This is basically straight is actually initial value is actually the previous parameter, and now I'm going to say it switch. Okay, cool. And in the case we are going to actually pass all the details. Cool, guys. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on this part, and there now. But before that, I need to export this. Export default and reducer name. Cool. So in add books, I'm going to add the new book, and I am not going to work on the remove book right now. So in the add books, I'm going to say it uh, let new books. I'm going to get the collection of the books by using JSON.parse, and I'm going to say JSON.stringify, right, to convert this in the string, and then I'm going to state dot books. So it is going to get all the books, and I got these books. It is going to get all the books from the previous state, and now right now at this stage I have only one book. So what I'm going to do here, okay, I'm going to say new books dot push, and I'm going to pass the object here, right? So as right now it's empty, I'm going to update this. So now as we got the new object, what I'm going to do, I'm going to return this updated state. I'm going to say it state. First, I'm going to write this, and now on the books, I'm going to say new books, right? So it is actually going to update our books. Previously we have one, and if I add multiple books, it is going to update this books and return the new states to us. So now I'm going to create the object. So what I'm going to do here, I've created one object here. I'm going to pass this, and in the object I pass the ID and book name. Book name is action.payload, and you can see here on our actions we write the source code. Okay, on our action we pass this object to the payload. So now if I go on the reducer, you can see here action.payload. In the payload we have the object, values, ID, name, author name, and all these things. And I have pushed this object into our collection, existing collection. So now we got in the previous collection we have one object initial state, but now we have two objects. So now I'm going to say it, return this updated state. So now our reducer updates the state actually, which we discuss in our lectures, that what actually reduces root. It actually updates the states. So it will take the current state and the action, and reducer will perform the action on that based on the type, which type we have passed, and update the new instance of the state. So it will return the new states. And in between that, what it's actually doing, it is actually when it updates the state, is actually send the request to the store as well as the store gets updates, right, guys? So let's go there again, and now our states got updated. Okay, so now move back to our project, and now I'm going to say on the add books, I'm going to write some code here to save and see what actually happens. But before that, I'm going to show you something interesting, and I'm going to show you list of objects. So uh, till now we have covered the switch reducer, but we have not stored this reducer states in the store. So let me create the store first. Then I'm going to show you many more things. So for creating the reducer, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say import and create store. So I'm going to say we are going to get this from Redux. Okay, cool. Okay, now I'm going to say for the reducers, I will go here in the index file. Because in the application, I already discussed you in the application, we can have one reducer, we can have a multiple reducers. So now I'm going to say it, import and reducer name. Okay, and I'm going to copy the reducer name, and I'm going to say it. Okay, cool. And now I need to combine all these things, combine reducers. What this combined reducer will do, it will actually combine all the reducer in our application, and it will store store this values in the store. So how it is going to do, I'm going to say const root reducer, great, and I'm going to say combine, and here I'm going to say reduce manager. Okay, cool. And we need to export this. Okay, cool, guys. So now this root reducer have all the reducers of the application, all the states, and we can have a one reducer, we can have a multiple reducers in applications, which is possible in real-time applications. So now I'm going to close this, and I will go back again to the store, and on the store I'm going to actually say here import root reducer from, I'm going to say reducers index. So we get this. Now I'm going to see it const store, and I'm going to set create store, and here I need to pass root reducer. So we actually need to pass the all the reducers to this create store, and now I'm going to import this, export this, sorry, and I'm going to say it store. So now this store have all the reducers when this store gets created, and in this stores, in this reducers and store we have all the states of the application, right, guys? So now I'm going to use the store on now I need to go on the index.js, and here I'm going to say we need to actually pass the store value to to the app.js. So I'm going to say import store from store here. Cool. And in the previous video, when we are using the context API concept or use context API, we have discussed about the providers, what providers actually do. We actually wrap the app.js component and we pass the values. And app.js component, when we pass the provide value from the provider, it have the capability to pass the values or the straight throughout our applications. So without using the props or right. So now I'm going to import the provider first. Provider, right? Okay, great. It is actually imported from the React Redux. So now I'm going to say it provider, and we are going to wrap this app.js. And now I'm going to use this store, and I'm going to say it store is equal to like this. Now this store is actually passed to this provider, and all the components in it are will behave like the consumers. They can get and perform the actions to this store. Cool, guys. So now what I'm going to do, now I'm going to show you how we can actually connect with the store and perform the actions. So what I'm going to do here, as we have already have initial value in our reducer, so I'm going to create one more component here, and I'm going to name it list of books like this, right? I'm going to say it pass the snippet and great, guys. So now I'm going to actually show the list of objects. So all I need to do here is I'm going to show in a table form. So I have already written this table. It is not very complicated that you will get confused with this. I hope you are not going to confuse. Okay. So what I did, I have created one table here and passed the values, top values. And here I'm going to explain this code. I ignored this right now. Okay. So this is a simple table. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually get the value from the store because we have already created the reducer and we have one object in that reducer. So what I'm going to do, and what all I need to do here is I'm going to use the use selector here. So I will say use selector. So once I select this use selector hook will actually uh, uh, this hook takes a selector function as an argument. This selector is called with the store state, right? Whatever value we have in the stores in form of the reducers, we are going to fetch that. So I'm going to say here state, and I'm going to set state dot the name of the reducer. So what is the name of our reducers? The name of our reducer is reduce management. Reducer manage books. So we are going to store values somewhere. So I'm going to say const books. Okay, cool. So we actually use selector. Use selector actually selects value from our store of this reducer, and we got the books because let me show you again. It is going to return all this object whatever we are going to pass. So right now I just call the books, and now I'm going to set books. And here you can see I'm going to rename this my books. So books will have the object books, and I'm going to map this. I'm going to actually uh, run a loop over multiple objects, and I'm going to say tr. I'm going to pass some index. We have already discussed about the keys in our previous videos. We can watch and understand this concept. And on the td, I pass the book id, book name, author, and let's check this out how it's actually working. So I'm going to call this here on manage books, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to call it here import from. Okay, cool. So now if I go and check this out and there is some error. Okay, what is the error? I need to check this out. Okay, we have not created the okay. We have actually get rating text, but we have not. I have not created this uh, method here. It's not very complicated. It's very simple method. Basically, this method is actually returning. If we pass the rating number, it is going to return the name of the rating. So I'm going to say it here. It's a very simple thing. Uh, Rating, I'm going to pass the rating and it is going to return me the name of the rating, right, guys? So let me check this out now. I'm going to refresh this. So it seems like there's some issue. So let's just check this out. What is the issue actually? Okay, you can see here the issue. The slice reducer for key reduce manage books return undefined during initializing. If the state pass reducer is undefined, you must. Okay, okay, guys. So we need to check this out. What was the issue actually? Books, and it looks okay. So I'm going to say it here. So guys, there's some issue. So I figured it out that problem is that we have not passed the default value to our project. So let me just check this out. And so you can see here we need to pass the default value. So whenever if our initial state is undefined, it is going to return the initial state. So now you can see here what actually happens. I'm going to explain you. So what actually we did, we actually call this reducer select directly from the store. So it is going to select the reducer value from the store and return to the UI. So now I'm going to perform these actions and it is going to actually reflect our complete application. So now I'm going to say here, okay, cool. I'm going to close this one as well right now, all these things, and I'm going to work on the save button. So what I'm going to do on the save button, it's very interesting and very much. This is actually a core part of the application. You're going to learn a lot from this. I'm going to create the four states here. You can write multiple ways of managing these things. So basically, this is not our topic to actually why I'm using use states. So this is actually it depends on you what approach you prefer to use. So I'm going to use this, the use state, and okay, I'm going to use this use state, and I'm going to get name, author name, status, and all these fields. And how we are going to get this, I'm going to pass the value and on change. We have already discussed all these things in a previous video in quite detail, so don't worry and don't get confused. So I'm going to pass the value to this use state, and whenever I'm going to change any value, it is going to update this set beacon name, and now we have the updated value of our book. And same thing for the author. I'm going to do the same thing for the author. So let's do the same thing for the author, and all I'm going to do here is okay. We have the value BK author, and whatever we are going to change, it is going to reflect the UI as well as. Okay, great. And now I'm going to pass for the status. Again, not very complicated thing. It's very easy. We have already covered all these things in quite detail in our previous videos. And whenever I'm going to change any available to not available or not available to available, we are going to update this BK status. And the last one is ratings. So you all are familiar that what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the value and on change for the ratings as well as. Okay, cool guys, great. So now what it will happen, it will actually going to update all these fields, and now we have our existing value. Let's suppose if I'm going to make some changes here, we have all these four values stored in our use state on our component level, right guys? So now what I'm going to do on when I'm going to click on this the save button, it is going to actually save this value. So I'm going to create a separate function here. I'm going to add book, add book to store, something like this. Okay, cool. I'm going to create an anonymous function which we have created throughout our application, and I'm going to create an object. Okay, cool. So now you can see here we pass the random ID to a name, and this we get this BK name from this use states. And now in the OBJ we have our booking object. So now I need to dispatch an action from here. I'm going to say perform the action, dispatch an action, and a reducer will get that action request and it will perform some action to update the store. And in this way, our application is going to be update, our store is going to be updated completely. So performing an action, I need to write the dispatch. So what I'm going to do here, at the top, I need to import this dispatch and I need to use this dispatch like this in our application. Const dispatch, it's not like this, okay. Use dispatch. Great, guys. So, and this dispatch have now a capability to actually call this our actions. So I'm going to perform some action here, and I'm going to say it dispatch action name. Okay. Now I need to import some our actions here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to import the action. Okay, and I'm going to say it. Okay, cool. So I call the action name. I've exported, imported from the actions dot from here, and now I'm going to say it. Here I'm going to pass the this action actually accepts the object, so I'm going to say it obj. Right, guys? So now on the on click, so you can see I make an object for the booking, and I'm going to call this action. I'm going to dispatch some action to this action, and it is going to say what to do. I'm going to say add book, and it will pass the request to the reducer, like you can see here, like I explained here. Now I'm at here, and I'm dispatch this action, and in the action I said add book, and action will send the request to the reducer, and the reducer will perform the action based on the type and the initial state, and it is going to update the store and return back the new state, right, guys? So let's check this out practically. So now I'm going to call this here on the action on save on click. I'm going to say it. Now on the on click, I'm going to call this action, and we have already familiar with this that how we actually need to call the action because in our previous videos we have done all these steps in quite detail like this. Okay, cool guys. So now I'm going to perform the action and let me refresh the application. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to say book two, and author name is uh, like Aamir is the author and available book, and it's very good. So now I'm going to show you on the debug that how this our application is going to perform. So I will go on the sources. I hope it's clear to you now. So on the sources, I'm going to say it. I'm going to close this. So I'm going to go to the source code, and here and the components. I'm going to make a request to this, and here I'm going to pass the breakpoint, and I'm going to pass the breakpoint here and on the actions. So you will see how this our application works actually. So this is actually the values I pass. Once I click on the save button, so now you can see here in the beacon name, we have the book two name and author name Amer, and the status available, and rating is very good, which means 4. So now I'm going to dispatch this dispatch this to the action, and in the actions we got this object details, which is good. And on the type, I'm going to say call the add books. So it will take the request to add books, and you can see here on the reducers our request came, and in the initial state we have the object one, which is fine, and on the action type name we have type add books. So it is going to hit this action. So now I got the previous collection which is I have already one book initialized. So now I'm going to add this. You can see here in the action we have the we have multiple things. You can see here we have action with two things: the type, which type we need to call, and the payload. In the payload we can have the values. We have as the complete object, so we have the object, and we can create the object on the runtime, like we can pass the multiple fields and pass it as an object, right guys? So now in the id we have all and all these things. So now we have in the collection we have two objects, right? So now I'm going to say it, store the previous state and pass the new state to our bookings. So it is going to actually update the store as well as. So let me just check this out and I'm going to close this. And now you can see here we have two objects. So see, it's very now we have this is on a different component and this is on a different component. But see, without using the props and without using the use of use context, how easy it is to manage the states of the application in a real-time application. We do not need to call anything. We do not need to fetch anything differently or complexly. It's very easy. We just need to call the reducer from our use selectors, and it is going to fetch the complete objects, and we are going to use it. So let's suppose I'm going to use this book 3, and I'm going to say it ln, and I'm going to say it average. See how fast it is. So now I'm going to show you, I'm going to update multiple other component as well to show you the value and how fast and how easy it is to manage the application on a single page applications or like application like spas. And there's no actually updation of any page or any component. It's very easy. All components will have direct access to the single store, which is very interesting and very much easy to manage the application in React just using the Redux. So let me show you again. So if I go here, now I'm going to show you manage books, and here I'm going to show you the real-time data. So again, it's not very complicated. It's going to be very easy. All you need to do is I'm going to import this. So you all are familiar with what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the use selector on this component. We are not using the use selector. So once we have the use selector on our component, I'm going to say here that I need to fetch the my books reducer because in that we have so like this. Cool. So in my books now we have we need to check in total I'm going to say here. Okay, I'm going to say books, and if the I'm going to say my books uh, dot books is not empty, then we need to show my books dot books dot length. Otherwise, we need to show 0. Cool, guys. So now just check this out. Okay, 3. So if I go here again and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it like this and save. You can see here how this component is updated very fastly, and this component as well. As we have worked on this, we send a request to our action that add this book, and in action add the book in the collection of the store, and how easy it is to manage that. We can just simply update all the components quite easily without doing any complex code on our application. So now I'm going to show the available books. So right now we have all the available books. So let me add one more book. So we have one unavailable book. Let me refresh my application and add some data here. So you can see one total books. I'm going to say it, The Lion King, book name, and King James is the right author. And I'm going to say it, very good book, The Lion King 2. Author name is same, but this book is not available. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say Cricket 23. This book is written by Imran Khan, and this book is also not available right now. It's an excellent book. Okay, so now I'm going to show the status. I'm going to show two here because two are only available books. So what I'm going to do here, I need to write some code here, guys. It's not very complicated code. All we need to do is I'm going to write a total in a way that it is not going to actually. Okay, I'm going to say books. This is actually the books. Some whenever page load some page, we can get undefined as well as, and in the books we need to check that do we have this object. This object is also not undefined, and I'm going to set filter the collection and show the available books length. So let's go on our page. Cool, guys. So you can see here how fast and easy it is to manage. So I'm going to say it available, and I'm going to say test and cricket 1999. So now I'm going to say it very good. So you can see here 5 and available are 3. I'm going to add one more. So we have total seven books, but available are three, depending on this. So this is the value and the importance of the Redux. I hope you enjoyed this topic, and I also personally enjoy this topic a lot because this is actually one of the core and the important topic in the React.js. I hope you personally enjoy this, and we get what we actually need to achieve. When we start this project, we actually decided that we are going to achieve this. These are the small things you can do it by yourself. Show the most rated book, top rated book, and the not available books. So I hope guys you enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching my video, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. And also now our concept of the Redux are much clear about that how valuable this Redux is, and how this actually the cycle of the Redux is working. It's very easy to access the data, very easy to manipulate the data, and very easy to perform actions and update your states throughout your components. You can call the database from anywhere in the application. It's easy and very easy to use. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and like my channel because I'm doing really hard work to actually teach you Redux and teach you React.js in quite detail. And if you have any confusion, you can reach out to me. Thank you very much, guys, and enjoy my videos.